Welcome to Exploring the Ozarks, where we tell the history and stories of locations, places, and people that make up the Ozarks. Here's Matt! The cheering this time is for Caleb, Matt. Sorry.
Oh, shoot, man. I get all excited when I hear that, and then you just brought me back down to life.
I'm sorry.
That's
I mean,
okay,
it's
though.
also mainly for you.
I thank you.
Okay,
I
you're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
You're welcome.
But welcome, everybody, to Exploring the Ozarks. I'm your host, Matt Graham, my producer and co-host right here, Mr. David Carr.
That's me.
And we also have a special guest today that I was just talking about with at the beginning of this, that I had, and not in a million years would I think that I'd be watching all these videos about these robots, and then we can have this on our show.
And in studio.
And in studio.
Like an actual robot in studio.
We did some cool videos beforehand, and we'll do some stuff afterwards that you guys will be seeing during this, so be staying tuned to that. But Mr. Caleb Sylvester's here with Boston Dynamics. Thanks for being here, Caleb.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. But you are also here at Springfield Studio 1, and we are here at Mr. Creative Endeavors, David Carr's studio.
Oh, I like that. We need to start using that. Mr.
Yeah,
Creative Endeavors.
I like that. Mr. Creative Endeavor. And
it kind of describes what I do, though, because I help encourage creative endeavors in all different aspects of creativity, honestly. Not
Absolutely.
just film, but I was here with Camp House, which is another nonprofit here earlier in the theater, and they're trying to do plays and promote house parties and other things.
I saw the audition.
Yeah. Helps get creative people actually paid well and not doing things for exposure, which is, we hate to hear that. Never tell a creative, we'll do it for exposure, unless it's Boston Dynamics. I would do it for exposure for Boston Dynamics.
Anything you want is
free.
free.
It depends on the crowd, you know.
He's a great videographer,
But
though.
sorry, here in Springfield and the Ozarks, you should probably be paying people.
Well,
so.
but it makes sense. I hear that from other people that are creative that are putting out movies and small movies, things like that, where everybody wants to pay people the proper way, and they want it to be a legitimate process and all that. But at Springfield Studio 1, you can film your own podcast right here in this room for what you're seeing.
Vince was in here earlier today.
Vince Tantone?
Yeah.
Oh, Vince
his own
Tantone.
podcast.
Method Inspections. Yeah. Oh, I bet that's a good one, actually.
It's going to be, from what I understand.
I
like
that.
They just rented it out. I had somebody else rent it out last week.
Very good. Yeah. So the word's spreading a little bit.
Word is spreading.
Well, if you want to do a podcast, this room's amazing. The stage that David has so in earnest built over the last couple months and moved a few times.
Yes.
He's got
that could be a whole entire podcast on its own. Is how I built the studio.
You need a time lapse that because you built it, rebuilt it, all that. But it's a legitimate.
I should excitedly announce. Of course, by the time this comes out, it'll be like a couple months old. But live stream is set up. Very good. I have all the equipment to do live streams, record performances, and if you want to make up a media package for your band or theater group or whatever, I can record it. And
I've got two bands in line for this already.
Perfect.
One just had a single drop on Spotify that they're pretty excited about. That's actually a really good song. And then a good friend of mine named Eric Russo is wanting to possibly put together a jingle for us.
Well, I was
thinking,
we'd have the bands in and also premiere them on Exploring the Ozarks.
Yeah,
maybe we should do a live stream on Patreon. It can be like, hey, Battle of the Bands.
Battle of the Bands.
Yes,
you get to make our.
And Caleb can be the third. I'm sure Caleb is like an excellent musician. Yeah, multi-talented.
Well, and we do have sponsors that we've got lined up. We're still working out some details on that, but they'll
pop up here on screen as we're talking.
Yeah, so they'll pop up because these are pre-recorded and we drop them maybe a few weeks later. So I don't want to give it all away, but you'll see it here in a few minutes.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I'm pretty excited. I'm going to go right through that intro because we've got a lot to talk about.
The only thing to mention is Patreon.
Last thing, I'll let you do your
10
thing.
seconds. Patreon, if you want to support in a smaller amount, $5, $15, $25, Patreon's the place to go. And there's a link in the description, and it's a great way to support us on our mission to explore the Ozarks without us having to depend just on sponsors. We're paying out of pocket because the show does cost money. Yeah, I mean, we're paying editors, we're paying us to be here, we're using the studio for free, but I do pay for the studio space.
Yeah, it's not free, right?
So anything you could throw our way, not only does it help what we're currently doing, but it'll help us to expand. We're always coming up with new segments and things that we want to do. So maybe next time we can use Patreon. We can actually fly to Boston Dynamics with Caleb here and be like, hey, let's go look at stuff with Caleb.
Well, so here's the way to bring the Patreon to, really into thought of what that helps us do, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't pay our guests to come on. They don't pay to come on, much like a lot of other platforms where people charge people to come on their show or whatever. Patreon's going to help us keep doing that for free for these people, right? Yeah. We've got Boston Dynamics on this show today, and they started out as a startup as well. So it's not like you can't grow something from people that help you that know, right?
It's honestly, it's the mass support of the individuals that makes you successful more than anything else. I mean, you look at Kickstarter and other places like that fund these big companies that exist now. Yeah. But it's the same for us. You get 100 people paying $25, that covers all the costs. Yeah. And that's only 100 people out of the thousands that watch our videos every week.
Right. So times that by 20 episodes, and now you've got your budget for us. But so speaking of budgets, I'm sure Boston Dynamics, they've come a long ways from what they began with. And Caleb, thanks so much for being here again, man. Absolutely. This is huge for us because you hear the words Boston Dynamics, you think Northeast, you think New England area, you think of Boston
because Boston's in it.
Boston's in it. But we have someone who lives in Ozark that works for Boston Dynamics right here in our home state, our 417 area code, our Ozarks that we so love. So we're going to explore a little bit about what brought you here. But let's first talk about let's just get to it real quick. What is Boston Dynamics, and what did you bring with you today that we're going to show everybody?
Yeah, so Boston Dynamics is the world's most advanced robotics company. We are we're leading the pack when it comes to mobile robots, especially. That's kind of where our focus is legged robots, but also just robots that can move through the world and do really interesting things. So if you've probably seen our YouTube videos.
Who hasn't seen those? No joke.
Those things spread like wildfire.
Oh my gosh, man!
That's how people know us. And what they don't realize is we're actually about 30 years old. Started out of MIT, and so we're all DARPA funded projects early on. And we've grown to probably about 650 or so employees now. Wow. We've got 2 commercialized robots, and commercialization, so the actual selling of robots, we've only been doing for the last couple of years. So that's new. But
I wasn't expecting that, honestly.
I did,
because I met you at STC Squared, which is a local event here in Springfield. So if you want to see tech stuff, go to that next year.
Shout out to that place.
Yeah, no, it was really cool. But when you mentioned that at the STC Squared, I was like, no, that is totally brand new. Yeah. But the stuff that you do commercial-wise, I mean, that is really incredible stuff. I was blown away by what you talked about, like the savings that you have for companies and the time you free up for humans in general,
right?
To get the task done.
Which is always kind of a topic of conversation when you think of robots. Every company, whether it's Paul Mueller here in town or it's GM on their factory lines, there's some parts that are robots, and they're stationary. That's all they do all day is move from one place to another. But you still have a whole factory full of people.
Yep.
It's not like, when people start thinking about how we're going to have jobs being taken over by robots, you guys are creating jobs to build robots.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really exciting, exciting industry. And we're at a really interesting point in time where we're starting to see, even when we go into, I work specifically on the Spot robot, the 4-legged quadruped yellow dog you've probably seen
Which
online,
is what we've got here today.
What we brought here today. And that robot, we use as an industrial inspection robot primarily. We have other use cases, but that's where my focus is. I lead a team that is focused on deploying Spot primarily in manufacturing, oil and gas, utilities. So I travel around the world getting to show this robot. But I can tell you that in terms of job creation or whether or not the robot's going to take jobs or how that's all going to play out, what we're actually seeing is reallocation of human capital to more valuable tasks, and then we're seeing people upskill for new jobs that didn't exist.
Right.
Yeah.
We have something we call robot wrangler, which is a job that did not.
I would love to do that.
This job did not exist, and every site, every facility we go to, when we put a robot in place, there's a person there that owns that program and is focused on deploying robots and making sure the robots are running.
Oh, wow.
That job didn't exist a couple of years ago.
Right.
And so we're seeing people, there's a really famous image that I like to reference, 1900 New York City, Fifth Avenue, Easter morning. And you can see Fifth Avenue is just wall to wall horse and buggy.
Oh yeah.
13 years later, 1913, same day, same street, Fifth Avenue, same image,
same spot.
Completely different. Now there's, in the first image there was only one car, the rest was horse and buggy. 13 years later,
all cars.
And this is the same thing, that the same this is where we are with robotics.
Yeah.
And it's
because all those horse handlers, they lost their jobs, but they probably became car manufacturers.
Right.
Or
worked on the line, or they went and did something else that they didn't know they could do. Honestly,
with the advent of public transportation with cars, you could travel a lot further. You could do a lot more. You could probably take a job 20 miles away when you couldn't do that with a horse.
Exactly.
This has been the truth with every great innovation.
Yeah.
Every wave.
What's the thing with chat?
Tech.
Yeah, like AI, ChatGPT is a big one everybody's talking about. It's like people freak out about it, but it's really saving a lot of time for various things and freeing up time to do
efficiency, right?
Efficiency.
Yeah, there's a reason why we use a computer, not a typewriter.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're all like every company I have the privilege of working with, they're constantly looking at ways to make things faster, better, more reliable.
Right. That kind of started with like Lean Six Sigma.
Yeah, absolutely.
In manufacturing especially.
Yeah,
now it's come into even banks and things like that to show, where's our holes at? What do we need to fill?
I love that you referenced Lean Six Sigma. But they, the principle of Lean Six Sigma is find the waste.
Right.
Find where your inefficiencies are.
Right. And create a program to dissolve that, basically, and make everybody's life much faster and easier.
That's exactly right.
Drive costs down, ultimately.
And so we're starting to see robots that can move through the world in ways that they couldn't before.
Right.
That's been our specialty. We're starting to see those robots now be utilized to do tasks that are mundane, boring, dangerous, things that you don't want humans to do, because those humans would be much more valuable doing other things.
Do you have any diaper changing robots?
Hey.
Honestly, that's one of those tasks.
Gosh, man, yeah. If it only could hold the kid down that doesn't want to be changed.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious. And this may be a question that you can't answer, but do you guys do any work with Tesla? Like, I know they have that advanced automatic car driving software that they do.
Sure.
Or I don't know if all their stuff is proprietary, like to themselves only, or do you guys do you assist other companies with stuff like that?
Not in that way. We have a lot of customers in the automotive space. That's a big space for us. The sort of, I think what you're asking is about sort of the brain that they've built.
The programming, the sensors for the cameras,
I was going to say,
the way the whole entire system works together. I mean, I think they have a LiDAR system on that one, don't they? Or do they switch it back out to something else?
So it's a combination of sensors, but it's primarily LiDAR based. But our, cameras especially, we're 80% owned by Hyundai. So in that way, we're very much invested in the automotive space, but I wouldn't say we're collaborating with Tesla.
No, but I think the technology kind of bleeds over into certain areas. Once a patent's up, they can take it, they can use it, basically whatever. But it seems to me that if these other car companies don't follow what Tesla's doing, even if they don't take their technology, they have companies like you that it's got all sorts of this Spot, right, is what he's called.
Yeah.
Just listening to the technology that you guys just have in this guy with the, FLIR systems and, cameras, and it's got sensors for many other things that I'm sure we're not even going to talk about. But those types of things going into cars make those cars more autonomous, right?
Sure.
So I just found out the other day that my truck and then my wife's car drives itself eventually on cruise control. And it's all camera-based, basically sensor-based.
Lane
it knows
guidance.
where the lanes are. It drifts a little bit when you get to a turn lane or something. But otherwise, I was pretty amazed by that. And it feels crazy to even let a car take itself at that point, even though it says get your hands on the wheel.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here I'm not really doing anything.
How that frees up, like, stuff for humans to do. Like, I find myself to be a lot more rested after using that kind of a system.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you go on a long drive with that kind of lane assist. You're no longer quite as tense.
I have a friend
that
owns a company, and he does his paperwork while he's letting his car drive itself.
Don't do that, guys. Don't do that.
I'm not condoning that. But I think, and the only reason I said that is because I feel like that's where the future's headed and not too far down the line here. What you guys are doing is you're speeding up the process of learning and speeding up the process of how we humans can start to get back to what we're good at, like you said earlier.
The goal with any tool inside of an industrial environment is set it and forget it. You don't want to have to babysit it if it's, you're trying to automate. You're trying to create an autonomous function. And so Spot is really good at learning an environment. It builds a 3D map around its body. It understands depth. It doesn't know the difference between a human or an office chair. It just knows depth. But it builds a map of its environment, and it allows you to show it things you want it to do along the way in that map, and it is incredibly versatile at adapting to a changing environment. So let's say someone parks a forklift in the way, which is pretty common in manufacturing.
But it's used to a path, and all of a sudden,
Now this technologies that you were just talking about, to bring it back to how spot functions, can identify, like, this is something in my path that wasn't here before.
How do I identify it?
How do I deal with this
situation?
situation?
Yeah.
And so that robot's ability to do, we call it foot placement planning, and it has something we call athletic intelligence, where it's constantly sort of making decisions about how do I stay mobile and upright and navigate this terrain. And it does that amazingly. Like, that is where the real brilliance of this platform is.
And it does it pretty quick, I'm assuming.
It's instant. And
so in that situation, it would just go around? Or would it?
Yeah, so it'll go about a meter or two off its path to go around something. But here's the thing. It gets more complicated, because you might say, well, when it's on this part of the path, if it goes to the left, it's going to walk into my forklift lane.
Right, yeah.
And I don't want it walking into my forklift lane. So then that's things that we have to learn.
So I teach it to stop and assess.
So what we figured out in that instance is you may have sections of your map where you go, I want you to stick to your path strictly.
No fly zone, basically.
Yeah, you're not allowed to veer one way or another. And so we've had to learn a lot over the last couple of years about what like slippery floors, for instance, like how does a four-legged robot navigate ice?
Right, with balls for feet.
Yeah. So like we're constantly, that's what's kind of interesting about the technology is we're constantly improving it. So like every 6 or so months we're pushing out new software that just is a huge improvement. And it is that,
because all the
Tesla
hardware's there, the
model
tech is there.
The hardware's
just
there.
How does it use it?
But you guys have a whole team, I'm sure, at Boston Dynamics that just comes up with the apps that you have to use on your iPad or whatever it is. But let's talk about the technology that's actually in this.
Well, should we maybe talk a bit about Caleb? Because remember, his wife said that we talked to Caleb about Boston Dynamics, but not about him.
That's right. So we got to prove it. So now that we've got, I guess you're right. We've got a good gist of what this is and what it's for.
And we'll come back to it.
Yeah, and we want to come back and talk about many other uses that this has. But
Exploring the Ozarks is about the people of the Ozarks. And Caleb does live here in the Ozarks.
And we're here to explore those types of things as well. So, as far as, like we said earlier, New England areas where Boston Dynamics is. But so how does a guy go from, you didn't live in Ozark when you got the job. Let's explore what happened to Caleb to get you here to Ozark.
Sure. Yeah, so born and raised in New England. When I was about 15 actually, my dad's job moved us to the St. Louis area. So we're about 50 miles west of St. Louis, a little town called Warrenton. Finished high school there, ended up getting into College of the Ozarks.
Wow.
What was appealing about College of the Ozarks for you?
Free.
Oh, shit.
That was
So
College of the Ozarks isn't free, though. You have to work while you're there.
That's what I was going to say. You had a decent work ethic at least.
I say that tongue in cheek. Graduating
is pretty impressive.
Graduating without debt is pretty important, but pretty amazing. But obviously the work study program. My brother went there, my sister went there, so I was just the last one in line to go. Okay, this makes sense. I got in, and so I went to College of the Ozarks. I studied public relations. I've been back a few times since they've brought me on campus to do to show spot, talk about robotics.
Right, but robotics was not your.
No,
that wasn't.
No, I'm not. That was not my forte. I was.
You're good at talking to people.
Yeah.
You're not an engineer that wants to sit in front of a computer and do this all day.
That's right. That's right.
But you're still pretty techie, I'm assuming.
Yeah. So I immediately 2004-ish started, into tech startups. So from my entire career, I've been in early stage tech and have done every job. Marketing. I recorded video. I edited video. I built ad campaigns. I sent invoices. Everything. You do everything in startups, right? And I had just the right amount of like crazy meets insane. I'm young. I can I'll
do anything.
I'll throw myself at this and just try to do it. So I was living in St. Louis, started with a couple other guys, started a company where we were building software for a nonprofit to online donation.
Were you actually coding this?
I was not. I was the business guy.
You were the business guy. Okay.
I was literally taking PDFs that we had designed of the interface, and I was going to knocking on doors at nonprofits.
Oh gosh.
Going, would you buy this software that didn't exist?
So you're field testing basically,
and had to seed the development of the software with the sales.
Jeez, man.
So that we built that company up.
That is crazy.
As the three of us, we probably had 20 or 30 folks. And,
Unreal.
And then I saw the writing on the wall where data is concerned. I went, everything's moving to big data.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this is probably 2013, 14 in there. And I started to think about where's my career going. And so I was consulting with a company in Atlanta, or a nonprofit in Atlanta. I met another consultant, and he said, "Hey, have you ever heard of this company in South Florida? This company called Levitas." And I said, "No, that seems really interesting. Let me look into it." I went and had lunch with these guys. They're based in West Palm, which was right by the Cardinals spring training. Which is
cool.
Great
Big baseball fan then.
Yeah, I love, like, my first date with my wife was to Cardinals Expo.
Oh, that's
cool.
Third baseline.
Yeah. So you go here to the stadium
Old
here
Busch
in town?
Stadium.
Old Busch Stadium.
Do you go to the stadium here in town?
Yeah, I've been to the stadium, and I need to go more.
It's a pretty
Just tell them what you do for a day job. They'll get you in all the time.
Just bring your robot. I'm sure they'll let you in.
Yeah. So I'll try to do the fast version of this. So I went to this company, and I was there about 4 or 5 years, and the whole focus was on big data, on machine learning.
How do you actually manage all the big data?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's like the basics of AI that we see now that we'll talk about. Yeah.
Data. So I actually helped that company build their machine learning practice, and we hired some really bright machine learning engineers, and we went out and I sold the first few projects. And that was my introduction into artificial intelligence.
Right.
So we were building all kinds of cool stuff for big companies based in Florida. All along, kind of like, I love Florida, the weather. All my kids are born there. My wife's from there originally.
Oh man.
But I had this longing to get back to the Midwest, to get back to land.
You hear that quite a bit.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
And so I'm one of the statistics that when COVID hit, that's when I moved back.
Okay.
So I got this job.
Wow.
And I said, "Do you need me in Boston?" And they were like, "Well, the office isn't even open right now."
Right.
So how did you get the job?
That's
though?
what I was getting ready to say. Did you
question.
approach them? Did they approach you?
Yeah.
Was it on Indeed? I mean, what?
I imagine with his background, he just walked up to the door and knocked on it. I went, hey, can I have a job? Yeah. Knock on the door.
Here's my resume.
Here's a PDF. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's not that far from that. So I was working on some projects with some big companies where we were trying to figure out, we needed visual data, we needed camera data. Yeah. But we couldn't mount fixed cameras.
Was this where was this at?
Boston.
This is down in Florida.
Yeah.
This is I can't talk specifically about the location,
That's okay.
It was in a power plant. I'll tell you that much. And we had some other projects where it was like, a mobile camera was really compelling, like a self-guided autonomous mobile camera, because we wanted the visual data so that we could run analytics and detect things.
Yeah. Right. And you're used to being in tech companies, so it's like it's there somewhere. Somebody's done it.
Well, I'm sitting here thinking you're going to put it on like a little RC car, like a camera, like a GoPro, and send it into something or whatever. But I'm assuming this is something that's pretty high tech that you didn't want to send people in there.
No, we needed repeatable, reliable data capture in places where we weren't going to send humans, and we couldn't mount fixed cameras.
Yeah.
And so we went, well, what robot could do this?
Yeah.
Right.
And there wasn't one, and we saw, okay, well, Boston Dynamics has announced they're going to commercialize this thing, so we just started getting in their inbox. Can we buy one? Can we buy one? Can we buy one?
We will give you money, please.
And eventually they let us buy, and we bought 2 of the first, run that they did. I mean,
so not only do you sell them now, but you were one of the ones to buy the first ones.
I was a customer.
Wow.
Yeah, I was a customer. So we bought 2. Within 2 weeks, we had mounted our own cameras, our own edge compute. We were doing like detection of, humans and reading gauges and doing all kinds of interesting things. And went to Boston to get trained and talk to them about what we were up to. And everything I saw was and I've been in tech and high tech my entire career. Everything I saw was new. I had never seen anything like it.
Big learning curve,
and it was like, this is the future. This is undeniable.
Because I'm sure that you saw also a whole bunch of crazy things that we don't see in the public.
Yeah, and just being in that environment and rubbing shoulders with those people, I was like, I felt this energy. I came home, I told my wife, I said, I don't know how, but I am going to work at that company.
Sure,
and,
sure it was the passion probably of the passion too. Like everybody wanted to be there. They loved being there.
Unbelievable. And at that time, there might have been 100, 150 employees when I was there.
Still small enough.
So what year was this, you said?
So this is 2019.
2019. So, okay. Right before you started working there.
Yeah. So then this is like October, November 2019. Fast forward, I put together my plan for how I'm going to work at Boston Dynamics.
Right, yeah.
And
it's on a PDF.
I meet some incredible people from the team because we started to do projects together.
Right.
So I ended up on a road trip in Texas with some of the key people from Boston Dynamics. And
you're like, this is my moment.
Yeah, I was like, I'm either gonna botch this or
yeah.
And these guys are just incredible humans. We just had the best time, and I asked them right then and there, like, are you guys thinking about building this team? Because they had just started to commercialize the robot.
Yeah.
I mean, they had what they called an early adopter program, where basically, it's the strangest thing. People were pitching us to buy the robot. Like, people would come and say, let us buy the robot.
Right.
Well, with all the public notice that Boston Dynamics has had over the years, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
Well, I'm
so
sure
much interest.
It was just like the company you worked for, where it's like, gosh, we need something so bad. And then they see a YouTube video and they're like, oh, well,
I would do it.
Maybe that should do it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure every company that's got anything that would use this robot for was itching to get it, I'm sure, and pay enough to do it.
So much interest. It was incredible. Incredible.
So you saw the advantage to build out their sales area, right?
Yeah. So I said, look, I've been selling bleeding edge tech my whole career. I know
that's
this.
a great fit.
I know this space. I understand this product. And came on board. I think I was hired in June, and then we packed up the house in Florida. We had it up on the market anyway. We decided we were kind of done.
Yeah. Market was pretty good at that point.
Market was good. So we sold it, packed up. Bought a house in Ozarks sight unseen. Never saw the house.
Wow.
And just had my realtor going and looking at stuff. We have some friends that are here,
good.
And they went and looked at stuff for us. And then we pulled up, and I'm gonna talk to Ozark. I'm gonna talk to people from this area.
Oh no!
So we're driving up from Florida with all of our stuff,
right?
And we come through Rogersville, and it takes us the back way. And this house is
down 125
down there. Oh my goodness!
And we get to this house, and we've been driving the last 20 miles on back roads.
Oh my god!
And I looked at my wife, and we went, "What did we do?"
Yeah. Like, you're hearing banjos playing.
This is. I mean, we knew we wanted land.
You told us where you were before the show, which we're not going to talk about. That, but it's like I know the area you're talking about, and yes, it can feel that way.
You're talking Lindenlure, which we just had those guys on our show too. But you're talking, it's really pretty, but boy, it's windy unless you have a U-Haul or something. I'm sure.
Unless you go through down like the main roads. There are some main roads to get down there, but it's still windy.
And we pull our boat to the lake, and driving on that road is
crazy scary. Yeah. I drove a bus down there once.
Yeah,
so, I get it. I totally get it.
So we pull in, and we're like. It took us a couple of days to figure out that we were only a few miles from Ozark proper. Like we're
right,
and then we're this isn't bad, and it's what we wanted. We didn't want to see our neighbors. We wanted animals. We wanted four-wheelers. We wanted dirt bikes. We wanted our kids to live this lifestyle.
But you're 10, 15 minutes from anything you need.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And he's close to Ozark, which is where I grew up. So,
man. That's only because he said the Nixa house, they didn't accept the offers.
Yeah. Oh, is that what it was?
We had two. He'll
take Ozark by default.
Yeah, we had an offer in a house.
It was just what was available.
Yeah, Nixa was the first choice. So.
We had an offer in a house in Nixa, offer in a house in Ozark. And we picked those two areas because proximity to the airport. I travel a lot.
Right. Yeah. But do you fly out of the small airport down there, Gimli?
No.
Oh gosh.
I'm an American Airlines guy. Yeah. I gotta get to where I'm going.
I actually took pilot lessons out of that
Did
airport
you really?
down there. Yeah.
Honestly,
there was a guy, and the guy that I took it from, he actually used to fly into his job at Cessna in St. Louis.
Oh, that's wild.
If I remember correctly. Yeah.
I see it. I drive by it. I drive by it every time I leave the house, and I'm like, man, that's a cool neighborhood.
I would love to live in an airport neighborhood.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It would be fun.
Man, isn't that like a grass
Nope.
field? Is it actually
it's
asphalted?
asphalt. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a
There are a
airstrip.
couple grass field
Yeah, that's the
airstrips
ones
in the
I've
area,
seen,
but
yeah.
Gimli's an actual airport.
Very cool.
You have like $500,000 $1 million homes surrounding it.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
then some there's actually a hangar that was converted. The lower part is a hangar, then the upper half is apartment.
There's also, have you ever been down to the end of that road
Yes.
where Wayne Newton's house was?
Wayne Newton?
Wayne Newton had a house down there.
Okay, so that
Yeah.
was, I actually had some friends of mine who bought that at the tax auction.
Yeah, the O'Reillys,
Yeah.
I believe, own it now.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, they call
So
it
my friends,
Waynesboro.
they bought
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
They bought it at the tax
Beautiful.
auction,
So
and then they cleaned it out.
Oh, gosh.
And actually, I went back there at one point and took photos.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Whenever they sold
Yeah.
it again, the next owners sold it, and then I went back there and they actually finished it off really nice.
Oh,
So I was
it's
impressed.
super nice.
It's a funny
Yeah.
story.
But anyways.
We were here about a week, and one of our dogs just disappeared. And
Yeah.
it never. We lived in a cul-de-sac. We had a fenced backyard.
It wasn't used to the freedom.
Wasn't used to the
Yeah.
freedom, and so we're panicking.
He's
We're
like, I'm outta here.
We're putting flyers up. We post some stuff on Facebook. Then when we finally figured out post it on Facebook, the community around us went like,
Crazy
hey,
for
we
it,
gotta
yeah.
help these people find this dog.
Oh, wow.
It was at the O'Reilly property.
Oh, yeah.
It's like camped out on a.
He's like,
you know,
this is a good spot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it's
There's
quiet.
a pool there.
Yeah.
There's a
Oh, it's
river. You can
gorgeous.
watch
There's a
the
creek and
planes.
everything.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's
Yeah.
gorgeous down there. Yeah.
So that was an adventure.
So that's funny.
but
It's a good Ozark story right there.
It is
Yeah.
actually. Well, it means everything about what we do with this. So,
Yeah.
but
So-
yeah.
So we're almost 3 years now in Ozark. Obviously, my sister lives in Hollister. My brother who passed recently was in Osage, and my parents there too, Osage area.
Yeah.
So we knew the area well. We knew what we were getting ourselves into, and we knew what we wanted.
Yeah.
And it checked so many boxes for us, and we just we're so happy with our property.
Well,
with
yeah,
our-
because you
with
said
our
you have
house
5
and
kids now.
5
They get to
kids.
go run around and do whatever
Oh,
the
wow.
heck they
I
want
didn't
to.
know you had 5 kids.
Do they
Yeah.
spend a lot of time
I
outside?
have
They
7.
do, yeah.
So,
Yeah, he's
you know.
got plenty of
He
them
got me
too.
beat.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying that I'm better than. I'm just joking.
He's
No.
looking
I'm
for-
just. You don't see a lot of people with that many kids.
No, and he's
No.
looking for land as well.
I am.
So
Yes.
Yeah. So we got, with the kids ride around in the 4-wheelers, they help take care of the animals. We have pigs, chickens,
Oh.
bees.
Sounds exactly
all that
what
stuff.
what my wife wants. She
Yeah.
wants a
Gosh.
little hobby farm out in the country. We can't see anybody.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So we've been just really embracing the lifestyle, and
love it.
it's such an interesting community. There's so many people who make things and grow things,
Yeah.
and
Fix things. And
it's just
Yeah.
like.
I was
Like-
telling my wife. There's people around to do this. It's like you should make your own home forge.
Oh.
So like you
that'd be
can melt
cool.
metal and then
Oh,
you
gosh.
can cast it and sand. There's all this stuff online, but
Oh,
there's
gosh.
people
I'll
that
add
do
it to
that
my
sort of
list
stuff
of
around
ideas,
here.
Oh, yeah.
I have a friend that does that actually. He'll melt stuff and just cast
Yeah.
metal and things
Oh,
like that.
man.
Long term,
It's an art form.
my goal is to actually have a little brewery in my house. I've been
that'd be cool.
brewing my
Yeah.
own beer for years, and a passion of mine is to brew with the things that grow in this area.
Oh, cool.
So that's something I'm working towards.
That's
as
super
well.
I think
cool.
Matt can connect with some people.
Absolutely. I was going to say, I've got people that do that already, and it's actually some of the best beer I've ever had, actually.
Yeah.
But it's all homegrown. There's a lot of love that goes into it.
Absolutely.
So maybe
Yeah.
that's why it tastes so much better than bottled stuff that you
Yeah.
get anywhere else. But
So now we return back to the technology.
right.
Yeah.
So,
where it's like,
well, it's just crazy to me that, what year did you graduate high school?
2001.
2001. So
Oh,
you're
okay,
right
yeah.
behind us, or with you, actually. But,
yeah, I was 2005.
and I was 99. So, you really blossomed into your 20s and 30s really quickly to work
Yeah.
for one of the biggest tech companies that I think there ever is or will be. And you guys are just getting started
Yeah.
from what I can notice with this.
Yeah.
We are.
You go from a few years ago, you had 2, I'm going to call them vehicles. And they started out in places that you wanted to send people that you never could send somebody. So now you've helped that industry out, and I'm sure you're continuing to help them. Let's talk about what's on this thing and what are you guys using it for in other capacities?
Yeah, absolutely.
and can you use it to do brewing stuff eventually?
Sure.
Well, we'll see. Anything's possible. We do have robots in breweries. And doing some inspection stuff. But,
That's cool. Well, I remember you talking about because at STC Squared, I was photographing and videoing your stuff specifically. But you had talked about how steam leaks are like a huge energy waster for a lot of these places.
Compressed air.
Yeah.
Compressed air is a big one. Nitrogen.
So that makes sense.
So-
At the brewery, they have a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Compressed. Any place where they're making things, compressed air is like powering so much stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
And so
As a human, you can't really see that.
no, and
typically.
you can't see or hear the leaks.
Yeah.
Right.
Oftentimes,
It's
Sometimes
obviously
you
pretty
can.
loud in most of those places
Yeah,
too.
it's super
so,
loud,
Yeah.
and so you have to be able to isolate the frequency and find those leaks. And those leaks, a quarter inch air leak in North America is roughly about $8,000 a year in energy costs.
Whoa.
So that adds up.
That's
right?
unreal.
Yeah.
I've been to places where I'm using the robot with a combination of it's an acoustic sensor from a company called Fluke. If you've used multimeters, Fluke is a well-known sensor
Fluke
company.
is a weird name for a company that sells electronics. So
Yeah.
is that a fluke?
It's a fluke.
It's a good, I've had the privilege of like meeting with those guys in Europe, and they have multiple offices.
Oh, is it a German name?
German company.
Yeah, okay.
Makes more sense.
That makes
now.
more sense.
There's
now.
2 dots over the U.
That's probably.
Yeah.
Fluke.
I don't know.
Amazing. They're amazing.
You sounded like you knew what you're talking about.
I have German ancestry, you know.
Yeah. So Germany's incredible. I can talk for a while about Germany.
What a cool opportunity, though,
I've been
man.
there a bunch.
So you
you
put the sensor from Fluke on top of the dog, and
the sensor from Fluke, and then we walk the dog around and we teach it where we want it to go and look for leaks. And I'll walk out of a demonstration, and we'll have found a dozen air
Oh my
leaks.
gosh, that they probably had no clue
saving
about.
them tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, right there.
Well, so they're just like, sign me up.
Yeah, I mean,
Send
at
me an
that point,
invoice.
you're like, well,
Well, can we talk about how much these dogs cost? Because I mean, it's not super expensive. I mean, I couldn't buy one. I mean, I'll say
But if
that,
you're a multi-million-dollar manufacturing
Yeah.
company, that's everything to you, and you recoup that cost within a couple of years, that
easy.
probably.
Yeah, 2-year payoff is easy.
That's what everybody looks for on ROI.
We have customers that have gotten it down to a year.
How long does it take somebody to learn how to use this with all the technology and sensors that are on it? I mean, is that like something you go do?
Yeah, so you'll see after this when I let you drive the robot, it's minutes.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
Okay. Like, I can hand
This isn't like a class you got to take.
No, I hand the control. It's not like a drone, or it's just.
It really isn't.
So
As a drone
simple.
pilot, and I've actually driven this thing before too at the event. It's really very intuitive.
Okay.
Yeah, I hand it to people, and within minutes, they're very comfortable.
Yeah, he
with
literally
it.
just gave it to a room full of guys and just said, "Here, have fun." Then he would talk to somebody else.
Oh, really?
We would just all play with it.
Yeah, and then a couple of hours to start teaching it autonomous paths. I mean, literally, it's designed to be like get it out of the box and go.
So I get to my office that day, and I know I'm the guy that's got to run this, and all I really have to do is take it to the spot that I taught it, and it's almost like a Roomba at that point, where it knows where it needs to go throughout that facility.
Well, it has a charging station that it ports
Okay.
at.
Yeah,
Well,
so-
and then it goes and does its thing throughout the day, and I go do something else that's more productive.
Yeah, so you at this point you can schedule things down to the minute. Like I want this to go out every Tuesday and Thursday and do this thing.
Right.
At
And you're not
3
even
p.m.
watching it. You just know it's doing its thing.
Set it and forget it.
Well, there's some
Unreal.
companies that have 2 or 3 of these things that'll
I
go
bet.
out and do.
Yeah, all kinds of different data. Like you can imagine if a plant is really large.
Oh,
Yeah.
You know, the battery life's 90 minutes. You can go about 6 to 7 kilometers depending on sort of like variety of.
Okay,
That's a
wait a
lot,
minute.
though.
We're Americans.
Yeah, I know. Right.
So about 4.5
like 3
miles.
So like 3 miles.
But
Three, 4 miles.
it's a ways, right?
That's a long ways.
So
My battery be low too.
Yeah,
you
it would.
You want to think about it in loops. So you start at the dock, you do a loop, you finish at the dock.
Okay.
I mean, that's pretty comparable to a human, though. I mean, that's like an hour of walking if you do a fast walk.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's exactly right.
and the robot's doing a heck of a lot more than a person's doing.
Yeah. So now where we see cases for multiple robots is when it's just the scale of a facility. It's just a massive place where it's just like
Some of those are
my
like their
word.
own city in itself,
Like,
like a
yeah.
Hyundai facility here.
yeah. Like I was just in
Nissan
in Louisiana at a big petrochem plant. I mean, and we're talking there's the size of a city.
Oh yeah.
And
And then they build a city around it for the people that work there almost.
And, you know, it's you got to have several robots to cover that kind of ground.
Yeah.
But you know, that's another industry that's really picking up for us. Oil and gas, refineries, petrochem. You know, it's a great space for us.
So not to go down a dark path or go on a road we don't need to go down, but you know, this is one of those hot topics I think right now because it seems like every time you guys have a video that comes out, it goes viral very quickly, and people share it, people alter it, they make stupid videos out of it and make it seem like it's some kind of conspiracy theory, and I'm not going to go down that road either. But when it comes to what you guys are doing, this is helping humanity more than it's hurting. And with the invention of ChatGPT-4 and how it's far surpassed its first version, and how you guys are probably going to be incorporating this into what you do, what people don't think about is that AI is something that you can control. And with this dog that you guys have, or these dogs that you guys are putting out, how does you say it does learn its environment, it does learn how to adapt to itself. So how is the AI helping you guys?
Sure. So It doesn't possess like a neural net in the way you might think. Like it's not
Skynet.
It's not. It doesn't understand the world around it and teach itself.
So it's not like a Tesla. Like a Tesla can recognize objects and as it's driving around.
It's digesting data more than it is thinking.
So I think it's important to to take a step back and think about artificial intelligence and how neural nets are trained.
Yeah.
AI is really only as good as the data that you give it,
right.
and the opportunity for AI in robotics, that's exciting is what I would call contextual awareness. We're not there. It's like this is just starting.
Explain that. What's contextual?
Yeah. So understanding the world around it in a more robust way. So in the real application, it comes down to like manipulation. So the example I like to give to people that's like a really basic human task, and I think I might have given this at the Springfield event. That is we take for granted, but would be absolutely impossible for a robot to do is to fry an egg.
All right.
Super simple task.
Great way to put it, though.
People go, oh, robots are going to take over. A robot couldn't fry an egg to save its life.
Right. So I have no need for it.
So the contextual awareness of, well, what is an egg? Where is it?
Right.
It's all the steps.
The philosophical part of it too.
What's a refrigerator?
Right.
How do I open?
Where do I get it from?
Because our refrigerator is different
egg
too.
in the refrigerator?
I was going to say, how did the egg get in the refrigerator?
What's a stove? What's a frying pan? How do I turn the stove on?
This is one of those things that, as an exercise for me, because I as a creative person, especially with ChatGPT and then all like the art stuff coming out, but I'm also a big tech head.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that I like to think about too. It's like computers are not that smart.
No,
they can't figure out all the steps between me picking up this mint, for example. It's like, okay, why did I do that?
And what do I do with it?
Yeah. What if I want you to go pick up a mint in the other room? I mean, can you actually find that thing?
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
All these things that step into that go in that process is crazy.
It's such a good example, and then start to think about, well, how many varieties of mints in the world?
What if it's a green one?
What's my favorite?
What if it's too round?
How do you understand the packaging? I mean,
right. What if it's not the right size or color? You don't want that one that you sent me to get.
Exactly.
So literally every step of understanding what this is has to be trained. And AI has to be trained for that.
It's crazy complicated.
And then that's the first thing is just a knowledge of what it is.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing is, what do I do with it?
Yeah, the use. Yeah. Well, and the thing that people don't realize is that ChatGPT is nothing but words. It's nothing but
it's a natural language engine at the end of the day.
There you go.
Yeah.
And
well,
it's all
I have
an
experiences
algorithm.
with that. Like I'm going to make a little podcast called where I just chat. It's called AI storytelling.
I love this.
And what I do is I give it prompts.
Yeah.
And I say, hey, here's the prompt of what I want you to do. And I want you to write a story. This many characters. First off, it never really hits the character mark.
No.
For whatever reason, it just never does. And then secondly, I noticed it takes things like I did one story where I said, tell me a story about planets that use social media and there has to be a chase scene. But the first thing it did is it used our solar system's planets.
Yeah.
Like it didn't try to come up with anything inventive. Then I had another story I wrote where I had it right, where it was like, tell me a story of a sailor that's trapped in a boiler room underwater for 30 years. And it did that, but one of the first things it did is it said, and I said there has to be magic involved.
Right.
And it said there's a magical mermaid that comes in, and then they leave and explore the ship and the coral reefs, and then at the very end it says, but one day there's an explosion and the boiler room opened up and he could escape out of it. I'm like, wait a second.
Wow.
Wait a second. It was exploring the coral reef and the area around the ship.
He was already out of it.
But why did it have to? Yeah. So there's these little things that it still doesn't understand.
A lot of nuances. That go
and it's
with
that awareness, like you said, the contextual awareness. It's like it's not following all the ideas that I have as a human.
Right.
Where it's like these are the constraints, but it's not understanding all these.
Well,
things.
and it's always learning from itself too. I mean, I know China's even got technology for AI in their fighter pilot or their fighter jets, where they say that I want to say 10% of their fighter jets have nothing but AI in them. Yeah. The pilot's only there to make sure that it lands safely, pretty much, and
planes
takes
have
off.
had that ability for a long time.
Well, they do it for dogfighting and things like that, and they say that they're far surpassing the fighter pilots in combat.
Yeah.
Interesting.
As far as how quickly they learn, the jet learns. It knows where you're going to be before you go. It knows if you pull the joystick just a little left to go right. It knows exactly what you're doing before you do it. Almost. That's the scary part to a lot of people that they think AI can do, but I think that's probably not completely the truth as well.
No, there's so many misnomers. Like I constantly have to, as someone who's been in the middle of machine learning projects, like I can tell you, it's so hard to just identify just the simplest things. You know, so many edge cases that you can't train for, and then if you can easily overfit an algorithm. And I could go. I mean, I can get in the weeds as to why people, don't need to be alarmist about this technology.
Right. Sure.
But where I'm excited with robotics is we're going to get to a place where it's going to be easier for a robot to know what this is.
Right.
Like, that is a water bottle. I understand what this is in context.
Yeah.
But then the next massive challenge is, what do I do with it? How do I grasp it carefully, and where do I grasp it, and how much pressure do I?
So if I gave a robot a command to go get me a bottle of water, first would have to understand what it looks like. But I mean, wouldn't my command telling it to bring?
What if it's a different label though, right?
Right. I mean, but we're assuming it recognizes a bottle of water. But if it does that, my command to tell it to bring it to me, would that not leap that boundary you're talking about, that massive step of what do I do with this
once
thing?
It learns it,
Yeah. So what are you? Where is it in space?
Oh,
right.
Gosh.
Where are you in reference to the robot? Where's the robot in reference to the bottle?
Right.
Where's the robot in reference to you?
Right.
Like, all of those things have to be figured out.
Right.
So we have
lots
to
of
we have to put
technology.
a tracker on us, GPS. And the robot can be like, oh yeah.
Well, so I mean,
it's really complicated. That's
You
what
look
we're
at
getting
like
here.
I always reference like Rocky when he's got that when he gets rich and he has the house robot that's always doing his robotic stuff around the house and bringing him Coca-Cola and stuff like that. How far off do you think we are from something like that?
I think robots in the home setting are a ways. And it's mostly about safety. and I think robots that are doing really simple tasks, like you've already seen fixed arms that'll grab something will be coming down a conveyor belt, grabs it, puts it over here.
Pretty common.
And it's really
That's
successful.
It. Yeah.
Now put wheels on that arm, and now you got a whole other heap of problems.
Something I've seen recently
or put
is
legs. Legs even harder.
Well, and sensors, like what you guys are doing with legs, holy smokes, knowing where each leg's got to go at all times.
So if you look at like the problems you have to solve first, it's mobility, autonomy, perception, then manipulation, kind of in that order.
Yeah.
And so, where we're at today is we've made huge strides in mobility and autonomy and perception. The next big thing is, now that I have a robot that can actually move in the real world and understand the world enough to not run into things and things like that, can I grab something? And can I understand what that something is? That's the next big thing you're going to see tackled, and it's going to move fast, but it's just a huge challenge.
So let me ask you this.
It'll be very simple stuff.
Absolutely.
Along the same lines of that question, so where do you see robotics being in like 10 years? Like, what gets you really excited about?
Yeah, because the last 5 years, things have just blown up entirely.
So, like, say 2030, what do you think will be?
Pretty close to where we are now, I would assume.
Yeah, I think you're going to see, the public start to understand robotics in a much deeper way, that they're not they don't feel threatened or anxious about it.
Do you see more, like Spot, for example, the dog being more commonplace by that point, like within 10 years?
I think
like the price will come down.
What I would say is, in 10 years you will see what I call general purpose robots that are both companions and doing jobs.
Right.
So, I think that's when you'll start to see it.
Yeah, because we talked about that before.
It will not be uncommon to walk around Springfield and see a
robot picking up trash or something.
That'd
be amazing.
That would be amazing. Yes,
gosh, if they could just send them down the highways, that'd be amazing. But
so
I actually saw a guy cutting grass, like on a thing. Like he was just driving,
like a little mini tank that looks like it's a lawnmower.
Yeah,
they use them on the big embankments. I saw those too. Pretty high dollar machine too.
Yeah, so I think you'll start to see capabilities go up, costs come down. It's going to be much more common to see them first in industrial settings.
Yeah.
Like that's
what we talked about before. I think the podcast where it was like because I had said it'd be nice if I could have this dog to watch my kids, because I have kids with special needs.
Yeah.
But you had said that wasn't really something that you found as a company that worked really well as an individual. It was more of a
in-home use is.
It's not, the technology's not there yet.
Well, like he said, keeping someone safe. Like, how does it know you're in trouble? You know?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be like a dog, like our dog trainer at our networking group. Shout out to Elite Dog Training or Dog Training Elite. those dogs can sense every little thing about somebody enough
and
to
they know
warn
what it
them
is.
what's
They
going
know how
on,
to
right?
Yeah.
I don't know if a robot could ever get to that point unless it's completely got a monitor on you and you're hooked up to it somehow.
Yeah, and I mean, safety is a huge issue, right? We have to think about how to, if you're going to put robots next to humans, how do you make them safe? And the challenge there is you might be familiar with the term cobot, which is a robot working next to a human.
Oh, okay.
The challenge of a cobot is they move very slow, and they can't lift much intentionally because it's designed to like work next to you,
right.
and that safety mechanism is like it can't be moving quickly and bump into you or grab something and hit you with it. So the challenge is if a robot can't move fast and can't lift a lot, it limits its use.
It's like having a computer next to you, though.
Yeah. So
until it can
ask
actually
questions,
right.
and
So until it can actually recognize what a person is, and then have all those sensors like safety wise, like I'm not gonna. Until it can actually move fast around a person safely, it's not going to be useful as
right.
Yeah. So
replace what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's really important.
And I thought about too, like when you because I kind of thought about this during the SD event, the STC Squared event. It's like you had mentioned mobility. Like I can't imagine Spot trying to run down a slippery grass hill.
Right.
Like trying to keep up with a kid.
Yeah.
Even the kid that's running like 3 miles an hour, it's like, can the dog even keep up with that on that?
Not
that
with
kind of
those
terrain?
feet that I see on it.
Yeah. Or like for security purposes, like
right.
if it's trying to guard a facility just to like track somebody.
So when we've seen like security use cases with our robots, they're usually like, look for something that might be on fire.
Yeah.
Or look for a door that might be open.
Right.
Or look for a hole.
Things that are
if
static.
There's a hole in a fence.
Right. Or smoke coming out of a certain area. So I mean, we talked about manufacturing. We've talked about mines or reducing mines being a thing in war zones, but on a more local scale, as far as what are the methods, what are these dogs used for besides manufacturing and military?
Yeah, so we've got a lot of universities that own robots. That's one of our biggest customer bases.
I'm sure. Do they try to like reverse engineer it type thing?
No, they're using the robot in the software developer kit to invent things, to do research projects, we have some customers working with universities. So the University of Missouri is actually a really good example. They have several robots, and they're working in collaboration with companies based in Missouri to deploy. They have an undergrad program. You can literally go to the University of Missouri as a computer science major and work on Spot.
Wow.
Really?
And they have Python.
I have a reason to go back to school now.
I was thinking University of Missouri Rolla S&T. That's kind of where my head went.
Yeah, so I mean, engineering school is a big one for us.
Yeah.
But like that particular school, I don't think has a robot, but I think they collaborate with Columbia.
And I think
They
that's
do
what's
actually.
going to
S&T actually has a place down in MSU. Like they actually have you can get a degree through them
for
MSU.
engineering or whatnot.
I was going to ask, do you guys work on Starship, like the food delivery robot at all? Do you have any collaboration with that?
No,
because they're at MSU all the time.
That's
see
cool.
little
I love
spots
it.
running
That's
around
cool.
campus.
Yeah, I'm so happy to see that in this area. Like just.
I was impressed the other day watching it. Like it stopped because I go to MSU to work out at the gym there. But one was going and it stopped at the road and it sat there until all the cars had passed.
Hold on. I don't know what this is.
Oh,
it's a food delivery robot.
Yeah,
it's on the
it's about this big. I mean, it's not super big.
So does it roll on the
It
ground?
rolls. Yeah, it has treads.
It's wheel based. Yeah.
Okay, so it goes from where
like a rover.
the cafeteria, I assume, at MSU, and then it goes around to campus.
It would go from the food court, and it's restaurants in general, not just the cafeteria.
And the food is inside this thing, and it rolls up to you, and you just get your food.
It has a little orange flag that sticks out of it.
No way.
It's like this high off the ground, the flag, but the robot itself is about maybe this tall.
That's awesome. Wow.
Cool.
Yeah, and it just drives itself.
And it knows exactly where to go when you're there. It has your coordinates in it, and it goes right where you
And I'm not sure how it does that, but I mean, probably following GPS.
Probably a lot like this,
but
though. They probably mapped out the entire place.
If you see a robot outdoors, it's usually using GPS.
Yeah.
GPS
and it's using
to find
sensors
its
not to
way,
run into things.
Probably
basically.
LiDAR to do obstacle avoidance and object avoidance.
But I'm sure that's probably similar to what you guys have, where it probably, whenever they first got it, they probably had to map out a whole lot of area, like a Roomba does when it first gets used to a house.
If it's GPS based, they're feeding it coordinates.
Oh, and it just knows the path to take and just not get run over.
Well, it can outline sidewalks pretty easily for that sort of stuff, and just say travel these paths.
And usually they geofence them as well.
Oh,
right, so they can't go outside of that.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: speaking of delivery stuff, drones, like autonomous drones, like, and the big thing
like
that everybody
Amazon
talks
already
about
has.
is like Amazon delivery drones.
Yeah.
And that's Wing. Actually, Google Alphabet, they have Wing as their service that does the drone stuff. But do you see that being like, could the stuff from Boston Dynamics be used for things like that to make it more autonomous, or is it more, what are the challenges you see there?
So, like, people sometimes will ask me, well, why would I use this rather than a drone? And I always say it's really not either or.
Right.
It's both and. Like, you need like something from the above, something from the ground. Like, especially, let's say you're monitoring the progress of a construction project, which we have a bunch of customers that do that.
I bet.
You need both, really, in a lot of instances. Right. Security is a really good example where you need both. You can send a drone a lot faster than you can send a ground robot.
So do you see a spot having a drone in it and be both?
That's not something we're working on.
Can you guys pay me for that? I just gave you the idea.
Yeah,
we got it on video.
There's
10% royalties.
Yeah, no big deal.
There's a company called A-Salon. They're out of Philadelphia. They're a really cool group of guys. They got their start in drone security. Yeah. They build these little they have autonomous drones. They build these little houses, drone house, if you will,
right?
And the drone, they have a SOC, like a center based in Philadelphia, where humans are watching the video feeds to look for issues and things like that. Right. Super cool company. There's some public stories about the stuff they're doing with Spot, because they have put their own little payload on Spot, and they have a doghouse for Spot, and so they combine. Drone in the sky, dog on the ground, and they do some really interesting stuff.
Can't beat that.
That's cool.
Well, I mean, that just screams that, search and rescue and things like that.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a huge market for that, because you're
drone. That's already a huge thing with drones.
Well, that's what I mean. Well, you guys already have, options for people to be able to use this for bomb detection and not sending the bomb squad. Well, they still send the bomb squad, I'm sure, but then this robot goes out and does that for you. So now you've taken the human element out of that part of it, which is huge. But, to me, you think about things like 9/11 or whatnot, it sure would have been handy to have something like this, to be able to go in and find people or whatnot.
Yeah, that's right. So, there's a story that came out the other day from the city of New York, where a garage collapsed, and they're using they're using Spot to go in and survey. And we've had a lot of use cases like that, similar things.
Well, I mean, I see more municipalities, wanting to, increase taxes or use bonds or whatever to be able to use these devices. Do you see that becoming more of a thing in maybe the next 10 years, where you're seeing more use by the government entities to keep us safe? Because I would hope so.
In ways that don't freak people out?
Well, in ways
like with the police?
I mean, I don't think anybody's going to be freaked out if this thing comes up and says, hey, I found you, but they couldn't. Yeah. Oh, my gosh, I would owe my life to that thing,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
It's an important topic. Like, we're laying the groundwork for a lot of things, and one of the things is, like, we announced a partnership with all the other big mobile robotics companies, that where we collectively have said that our robots will never be used to harm or intimidate humans, and they will never be weaponized.
Interesting.
So all of the robotics companies in North America and Europe that are working in this space have joined that.
Almost like an alliance.
Yeah, an alliance to say this like, these robots will not be used to harm humans, and additionally, like, the next step with that is, like, putting legislation in place and things like that.
Yeah.
Right.
But we have a really strong policy team that's, like, constantly thinking ahead and going, like, how do we create an environment where these robots are helping and
not hurting, because if someone does get hurt, then that company is very susceptible to collapse.
Yeah.
So one little thing can make a big difference in your world, I'm sure, when it comes to safety. So.
Yeah, and we spend a lot of time just thinking about how we want robots to be used ethically, and that's a super important topic for us. But in the public sector, it's super interesting. We'll see the fire departments, bomb squads. There was a story about an incident in St. Petersburg, Florida, barricaded suspect, hostage situation, child hostage in a vehicle. Spot was used to essentially to approach the vehicle, approach the suspect. through a series of events, realized the suspect did not have a gun.
Okay. Oh. Wow. So it assessed that situation.
They were driving
didn't
it.
Notice
remotely.
anything. Okay.
They're
right.
driving it. They're
But with the sensors that are on it, it didn't notice gunpowder. It didn't notice.
Yeah. Essentially, the way I understand it, and I'm probably getting some details wrong. There's a blanket over the child.
Okay.
Used the arm to remove the blanket. No weapon, and then the police went, this guy doesn't have a weapon.
Right. Let's go.
And rescued the child.
But that saved a lot of people's lives in that situation, especially the suspect, I'm sure, because otherwise they might have just,
and let the police know exactly what they need to do.
Did what they need to do. And that seems like that's where we're having a big problem in our society right now between police and regular civilians.
Sure.
And especially cases like that where it's a what if.
Think about how a robot de-escalates.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, it doesn't have
it's not gonna harm
human
you.
bias.
Yes.
It doesn't, it doesn't perceive things or make mistakes the way a human would. So that's a huge advantage to like be able to go, let's use the robot as a way to assess and get better data, get better information, make better decisions, and remove people from harm's way.
Right.
So I think we're going to continue to see that. Like right now, it's sort of the bigger cities that have the wherewithal and the budget. To really experience.
To me,
and I need to chime in here. We're at time.
Yeah,
so.
I know, and I hate that. The biggest thing to me is how many cities are using this right now?
I can't say off the top of my head, to be honest.
Just a few at this point, it seems like. But you said New York, for example, they had it. People kind of went off the deep end about what we're talking about with, robots are going to take over the world all of a sudden.
Just misunderstanding.
It's a PR. It's a whole PR campaign, basically.
Some of it is
someone didn't do their job. Then is what it sounds like.
Some of it is like opportunism, where someone sees something that clickbaity type of thing to get in on, and some of it is people who have genuine concerns, like I don't understand this technology, can you tell us more? Right. And we love those engagements. We love to talk to those people and go, here's what this is actually being used for. Right. And it's very easy to show the value and show the importance of this type of technology. But I'll also mention, police departments have been using drones and robots for years.
Yes.
Years.
Especially drones. Yeah.
This one has legs, and it looks different, and it's got new capabilities. But the ability the using tracked and wheeled robots has been something that's been common, and drones been commonplace for
especially
decades.
Bombs and things like that, where they have them on tracks. You see a lot of them that look like WALL-E or what's the Short Circuit, the movie, and all that, where they send those in and they have arms and they will get rid of bombs and things like that. But and I hate to stop this conversation, man. We've got to probably have you come back.
He does live in the Ozarks.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm really excited that you're right down the road from me, actually. But I think that's a good place to stop, because we're leaving on a good note with this, and I'm really excited that you came in and told everybody what this is doing for humanity, and we were able to kind of squash some of the things that you hear about. And I'm glad you were able to come on this show to talk about it, so we really, really appreciate you coming on.
My pleasure. It's good to be here. I'm glad to have this audience and be able to connect with other folks in the Ozarks. This is home for us, and we love it here. And we plan to set deep roots here. And the technology side is fun. That's great. I love my job. It's an incredible company.
Right.
But just glad to just generally make this connection and commune with you guys on this.
Absolutely,
it's been great. It's been a lot of fun.
Because you think of a Boston Dynamics or any laboratory, and you think all these robots, and you think like we talked earlier, that they're going to take over the world. They're going to take your jobs. You guys are creating jobs. You're setting roots in places that you normally wouldn't think about. You're helping humanity more than you're doing anything at this point. And so, hats off to you guys for being such a good, clean company too.
Thank you.
And we hope that when you have new tech that comes out, you come show us on the show and we can talk about it a little bit more. So we want to develop a relationship with you guys.
First time you show Atlas somewhere, please bring it.
Hey, keep an eye on our YouTube channel.
I was going to say, you'll see it on YouTube for sure.
But you got my contact info.
When you get your hands on a system, let us know. But again, Caleb, thank you so much for being here. We look forward to seeing you more in the future. Awesome. And everybody else, keep exploring the Ozarks.
Yeah, thanks.
Again, for listening to Exploring the Ozarks. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our social media channels to help us keep exploring the stories of the Ozarks. If you're looking for more ways to support our show, we have sponsorships for businesses and Patreon for individual supporters. Check the links in the description for more details. Thanks for your support, and keep exploring the Ozarks.